guys, it's Izzy here, and today we are going to be doing my December TBR video. We know those letters TBR are used very loosely this time of year for me because I've already hit my reading goal. I am nearly 20 books over my reading goal, so this is really just a bunch of mood reading, just what I'm in the mood to read in December. Now, we are in a different location today. I've just had to have a change of locations lately. I don't want to get too much into it. There might be sounds and the lighting might be off because this is my first time filming a sit-down video here, and hopefully the only time I ever have to, but you never know. But my apologies if there is sound or lighting issues throughout the video, but let's get into it. I also would like to apologize for not having a video up last week. I was sick, and I did put that on my community tab, but I know not everybody checks that. So I was sick, but I am feeling loads better. I'm like 100% now. All the books that I'm going to be talking about today, I do not have them physically where I'm at currently, but I do have 3 of them. But just for the other ones, I will insert a picture as I don't have the physical copy with me. So I'm going to start with the books that I'm currently reading. So for my 5-star prediction project, this is the last book in that project, and it is After the Flood by Cassandra Montague. So this is my science fiction selection for that. I got this book as a gift a few years ago. It might have been last year, I don't know, but I did get this one as a gift, and it is a dystopian, but like the dystopia, like the world just ended basically. The world as we know it just ended, but there were these floods that the earth was flooded. There were earthquakes under the ocean that caused the water that is inside the earth to come forward and add more water to the ocean. So therefore the waters from the oceans obviously came inland, and a lot of huge cities, New York, Los Angeles, our own coastal areas, so people had to all come inland, and now basically there are only a few towns that are mountaintops that are still there. And in our situation, we have our main character, Myra, I think is her name. It very rarely says the characters' names. So she's our main character, and at the start of the flood, her husband took their daughter away and was never seen again. He abandoned Myra while she was pregnant with her he left her with her family, with her grandfather and mother, all that. So she got left all alone there, doesn't know where her daughter is, doesn't know where her husband is, and her goal is to get back to her oldest daughter because she did give birth to her daughter Pearl. So she's having to take care of her young daughter, who that was all in the past. This is like 6 years later, I think. And so she's having to take care of one daughter, but also there is that question of, is her other daughter alive? Where is her other daughter? Is she all right? Because this is a very cruel world where there are like raiding ships to bring the population back, and there are raiders and slavery and all of that kind of thing. So obviously a mother's going to want to know where her daughter is, even if it's a completely normal world like we're in now. But it is a 5-star prediction for me. I love those kind of books that are like the catastrophe has just happened and people who were in our society are having to find a way to adjust to that. Now we have a book that is the only book that I own that was nominated for the Booker Prize. This was on the long list for the Booker Prize. I don't think it made it to the short list, but I would have to check. And that is Booth by Karen Joy Fowler. I will be starting this today. I do think it's really interesting that this one was nominated for the Booker Prize, but was not nominated for Book of the Month's Book of the Year. But this is all about the family behind John Wilkes Booth. Now, if you don't know who John Wilkes Booth is, he is the man who shot Abraham Lincoln, and Abraham Lincoln later died from his wounds. And it goes into his life, I guess. So an epic, intimate novel about the family behind one of the most infamous figures in American history, John Wilkes Booth. And it goes to just what his life was like. So a startling portrait of a country and the throes of change and vivid exploration of brother and sisterhood. Booth is a riveting historical novel focused on the very things that bind and break a family. With deep care and extraordinary vision, Karen Joy Fowler has created another unforgettable singular work of fiction that vividly captures the essence of our time and times past. I love when authors can connect our modern times to times in the past by not just having two timelines. This one I don't think has two timelines, but just how we are all human, and humans throughout the whole course of history, we all have emotions, we all have similar things, like everybody has a family, whether it be found family, blood family, whatever, but you have to have a family. And there's these things that are always essential to human life from the get-go, from the start of time to now. And I just love when you can connect those things. And then obviously this being about a man who shot a president, what goes through your mind to actually do that, pulling the trigger and doing that? Very interesting, especially in these times, thinking this was about 150 years ago, thinking of how they would go about trying to find the criminal, what his consequences would be, and all of that. So I have been to Ford's Theater where the shooting happened, and I do recommend going there. And then just driving back from Washington to South Carolina, I actually drove by where they caught John Wilkes Booth. I think that's like what the sign said. I didn't like pull off to where it happened, but I did see a sign for where they found him. And I love this cover. I'm curious of what this cover is going to mean to the actual story, if there's going to be any kind of correlation there. Next, we have my ebook pick for the month. I always associate fantasy with December. I feel like this is just the perfect time to pick up fantasy, because it's usually fantasies, as you can see, are pretty thick books most of the time, so you just have this long time to read by candlelight. I never do that, but we can pretend. And it's just a very cozy time, and I think during cozy times you want to bundle up and pick up a book and just dive into a story. And this one is The Mist of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley, who has is not a great person, and I didn't know that when I bought this book and picked it up. I have since found out. I am about 30% of the way into this book, but I don't think that you should be canceled for reading books by a canceled author. Or I mean, honestly, I do think cancel culture is very toxic. I do think that this author did do terrible things, and I don't agree with the things that she did, but I do think you can separate art from artists. I'm just one of those believers. But let me tell you what this book is actually about. I bought it because the cover, I honestly just love this cover. And so what it is about is the story of King Arthur, but at the perspective of the women. Now, I have read King Arthur, and I actually DNF'd it. I read literally hundreds of pages of it, but it is a very long book, and I felt like in King Arthur it was just very repetitive, the same stories happening over and over, just with different names. But this is just given so much more depth to that story, and obviously seeing it from the perspective of women is really awesome. And this is I think this came out in the 80s, I'm pretty sure, but I do think it still is very well written, and I have loved the characters in this. There's some characters that I haven't loved, but I have very much enjoyed hearing about King Arthur from the women who were in his life. That was the last book that I have physically, but I do have a picture of all the books I do have on my TBR, so I am looking at my phone to let y'all know. Actually, I'll put my phone right below the tripod right there. So the next book I have to read is The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name, which is bad because he is quite the popular author. I'm reading this because it was on the long and short list for the Book of the Year prize at Book of the Month, and I wanted to read all the books that I had that were nominated for that prize. This is a epic historical fiction. It is very long. I am going to be doing the audiobook for it, and this is, as I said, historical fiction in the 1950s, so not too far back, and it's about brothers and friendship between men, and one is just getting out of prison, and when he got dropped off out of prison, two of his friends from prison happened to be in the back like in the trunk of the car, escaped from prison. So they're all together out here, and I think it was Nebraska. This is our second Nebraska setting this month, because then after the flood, the story actually does have ties to Nebraska. So kind of a fascinating setting. I have been there. I've only driven through, but the people there were very kind, so recommend Nebraska. But it is going, just following these bonds of these men is what I'm pretty sure what it's about. The next book is The Love Hypothesis, and it's that Ali Hazelwood who it's by. Sorry, my phone's making me sign in. Yes, so this one was nominated as well. This was a book that started as a Reylo fan fiction. That is Rey and Kylo Ren. I was like, what was his name from Star Wars? And she is a student at college, so don't think they're like underage, and he is a professor, and he's like, everybody hates him, he's very grumpy, and I think she's trying to prove to her friend, like, there's something, and she randomly kisses him, and there's fake dating, and it's like the grumpy sunshine trope, that kind of thing. But we'll get to it. Like, I've just seen people have hyped it up so much, I finally gave in to the hype. One that I've really been wanting to get to, and that is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Yeah, I didn't know if it was of or in, by George R. R. Martin. Between House of the Dragon and then Game of Thrones, or Fire and Blood and A Song of Ice and Fire, it is set in the same universe, and it's just about these two guys, Dunk and Egg, I think, going around the Seven Kingdoms doing what knights do. I don't know a ton of details, but it is like the only book in this universe that I have not read, so I really need to get to it. Next we have Circe by Madeline Miller. This is a Greek mythology retelling about Circe, who I don't know anything about. I just know that a lot of people prefer this author's other book about Achilles, but I feel like Achilles is so overdone. Give us some of the other great characters who we don't really hear about that much. Those are all of the books that I plan to read in December. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you made it all the way through, leave a deer emoji, because, you know, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or a snowman emoji. Do one of those. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!